All right, so in this tutorial, we're going to do is create a modal. So basically, a modal is like a pop-up. You can kind of see an example of one right here. If I click on this, you can say, click me. And if you click on it, it does this thing where it pops up, and it's kind of like a pop-up. Now, this is good because one of the things you could actually do is set up like a gallery of images, like a table of them. And then you could click on each one of them, set this up, and then when you click on it, a bigger version of that picture pops up, right? Which is kind of nice. Or you could just have a picture of maybe have little profiles of team members, right? And there's a picture and like some text, and maybe when they click on it, it pops up and it gives like more info about that individual. So it's kind of like another way to reveal more information, because you might have noticed that most of the things that we're doing here are all about like truncating and then expanding what we want. Okay, so you again, you can right click and save link as, and then you can download it. You can see the actual code, but it's just what you see here anyway. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to make one using Visual Studio Code. So first thing I need to do is file, new file. All right, and then I'm just going to go ahead and save this, and I'm just going to call it modal example.html. Okay, and that way it'll know that it's HTML. And I'm just going to go ahead and quickly write the code up, and then just for the generic stuff. All right, so here we got the generic thing. Now what I'm going to do is go ahead and put in my HTML. It's relatively simple because there's not a whole lot to it. So we're just going to go ahead and I'm going to make a button for the click me. So it's just going to be button, and I'm going to add an ID to it. So I have a way of selecting it. So I have a way of applying the CSS as well as selecting it with the JavaScript. And we're just going to call it the modal btn. Okay. And it's just going to say click me, right? So this would be this is what's written on the actual physical button. Great. Okay, so there's your button, and I'll just put a space there. And here we're going to make the div that's actually going to hold the modal in it, the window that's going to pop up. So I'm going to again give it an ID. So I have a way of selecting it, and we'll just call it modal. And I'm also going to make a class, and we'll also call that modal. Okay. Because later on you'll see we'll use both of those in order to select it. And inside of that, I'm going to do a div. Oops, let's tab that in. Tab. There we go. We're going to do a div class, and it's going to be modal content. So this is the actual content of what's going to be in it. And then inside of that is going to be just stuff. So I'm just going to do an H3. And we'll just say, here is the content, okay? And then we'll just put AP in there. So much content I can't possibly. Okay. And I'm just going to delete, and we'll just put we don't need a space there. Okay. So actually, we are going to need that. So anyways, this is the button, and this is that, and then the last thing I need actually inside of there when it does pop up is I'm gonna need a close button. So we'll just do a AP, and instead of using an actual button, I'm just gonna use text because I think it'll look a little bit nicer. And I'm just gonna call it the close btn for button, and then I'm just gonna write lowercase close. Okay, so you'll eventually you'll click on this P element. We'll use it like a button, and that's how we will work with it. Okay. Yeah, that's good. Okay. Now let's go ahead and add some style. So, new. Okay, style. And we're just gonna basically format some of the stuff here so it looks a little bit nicer. So let's go ahead and format our modal button. So we're gonna go ahead and use our ID. So modal btn. And inside of here, I'm just going to add some margin so there's some space in it. So we'll just do 25 px. I'm going to add some padding so there's space inside the actual button, and we'll just do 10 px pixels. Font size, and I'm just going to go ahead and do 1.25 em. That way it's slightly larger than what the default would be. So 1 1/4 size. And then the font weight, we'll just make it a little bit heavier too. font -w. There you go. Weight. And we'll do 700. So if you remember, it goes, I think, from 100 to 900. So we'll do 700. That'll just make it a little bit thicker. Oops. All right. So that's the first one. Then we'll do one to target the class of it. All right. And basically, because you remember, that's this entire thing. So it's just going to be the modal. And display, we're just going to set it to none. So that way it's off by default. The position of it, we're going to set it to fixed, okay? Which means it'll be absolutely in whatever position that we put it in. And one of the reasons why this could be other things, but the main reason why you need to do position on this one is that we're going to use z index, okay? So z index, and I'm going to set that to 1. So basically, the way it works is, if you remember, z index goes from 0 to whatever you want, but 0 is the most far away element. It means like more in the background, and like 1 would be in front of 0, 2 would be in front of 1, and so on and so forth. Because when I click on that modal, I want it to pop up in front of the rest of the page. I need it to have a z index of 1, so that way it'll be in front. But z index will only work if you have position defined. If you type just the z index, it won't actually function, which is sort of annoying. I found that out the hard way because it wasn't working once. I'm like, why is that not working? And ended up being that. So anyway, end up pulling your hair out quite a bit trying to find some of this stuff. So left, we're going to set it to 0, which means it's going to be all the way to the left side. And top, we're going to also set that to 0 because it'll be all the way. We should probably put px just in case. A lot of times, if you don't put px, it'll just assume it's px, but I like to just put it in there to make sure. That just means it's going to be all the way to the top and left. Okay. Then what we're going to do is decide a width, and we're just going to go ahead and make it 100%, so that way it takes up the entirety of the space. And then we're also going to do height. All right, boom, and that's also going to be 100. And then overflow, and we'll just make that hidden. And the last thing is going to be background. Oops, background hyphen color, and we're going to do an RGBA, and it's going to be 0, 0, 0. So basically it's going to be black, okay, but this is the ticket, and then it's going to be 0.25. So because it's RGBA, do you know what the A stands for? Alpha. So it's actually 4 channels. Usually an image has 3, right? So you have red, green, blue. This is red, green, blue, alpha. So this way what I'm going to do is put a black color. What this is going to do is it's going to be the, because you'll notice that when I clicked on that, it's not up anymore, but when I clicked on damn it, not you. When I clicked on the button, it made the background dark. That's what this is. So if you want a different color or whatever, that's why it's 100% here and here. So it covers the entire screen. And it starts from the top left, so that way it'll go across the whole thing, and it will go over everything. Okay, so that way just make sure it covers the entire screen. So that's what we need that for. Now we'll do the actual modal content. So modal content. All right, and okay, yeah, modal content, and then we'll just do background color, background hyphen color, and we're just gonna make it white. You can make it any color you want, but margin, and not margin, but margin. And I'm just going to go ahead and do 15%. So that'll be to the top and bottom. And then we'll do auto. So it should automatically set up to compensate in the other direction. And then we'll do padding. And I'm just going to go ahead and do 20 pixels. That way there's space between the content and the outside edge. Which will be that border. And then there's border. Okay. And then we're going to go ahead and do it 1 pixel thick. We're going to make it solid. That's the type. And then I am just going to do dark gray. But it could be whatever you want. I would suggest using an RGB or hex code or whatever. Use the color picker from W3 Schools. And then the width, I am going to set to 80%. Okay. With, oh, I didn't put percent. 80%. All right. And then we're just going to go like this. Okay. Glorious. Save that. And now we need to do our close button needs formatting. So close btn. And we're going to do color. I know it's a lot of formatting here. Color is going to be, I was hoping it would finish it for me. Color. There we go. And we'll do light gray. Doesn't really matter. And then font size. I'm just going to make it a little bit bigger. So we're going to do 1.5 EM. So it's 1.5 times the normal size. Font weight. Instead of putting in a number, I'm just going to go ahead and put in bold. Okay, which will make it thick. And text align. Text hyphen align. Good. And we're just going to go ahead and center the text inside of that button. Well, actually, it's not a button, but it's just going to center it. That way the close will be in the middle. And the last one we need to do is just for when we, close btn. Oh, and we need to close button and hover, just so that it looks a little bit nicer. And we're also going to do it for the close btn. I keep forgetting the E. btn focus. All right, and great. And we're just going to go ahead and do color. We'll just do black. And text decoration, text hyphen decoration. And we're going to do none. The reason why we're doing none is that way when you hover over it, it doesn't have a line underneath it. Because by default, when you have buttons and links and things like that, it automatically puts that underline thing on it. And the last thing we're going to do is like we did with the previous one, I'm going to do cursor pointer. That way, when you hover over it, your mouse will turn into the little, whatever means that you can click on something. Otherwise, it'll just look like a generic cursor, and that won't be very useful. This way, it'll actually change it so you can tell that you can click on it. Just makes it a little bit better. Go ahead and save that. Now, most of this you're not going to be able to see anyway, but we could, where are you at? Boom, and where are we at? Modal example. It's not going to do anything yet, because the clicking doesn't, I don't have anything to make it appear, so, but it, it's not being all messed up, so that's a win in and of itself. Time to do the JavaScript. Woo! Okay, so exciting. Okay, so it's going to be script. Okay, and we're going to start placing it in here so that we can do our script stuff. Okay, to make this actually function. So tab is going to be var modal. Basically, what I want to do is store the modal inside of my inside of this variable, so I have access to it. So the way to find it is we're going to go document. Come on, document dot get element by ID. And I'm going to look for modal. Okay, so basically it's just going to store, which one is it? It's going to store this div, more or less, inside of this so I can get to it. Okay, that's what that's doing. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do one to get a hold of our modal button. So I'm going to do var for variable modal btn. And I'm going to store the document dot get element by ID, and it's going to be a hang on, modal, and this will be, we're going to look for the modal btn. Kind of name it the same thing as, probably not the right way to do it, but works for me. Okay, so we're gonna look for the modal button, which is, where are you? This dude right here. Where are you at? Modal, right here. So we're going to take this and we're going to store that in here so I have access to that. And then we're going to do another variable that's going to hold the close button. So close btn, and it's going to be the same thing. Document dot get by class name. But I'm not getting elements. I'm just, I am getting elements. Okay. And it's going to be close btn, and I only want the one element. So if you remember, when you do an array, oops, that's not what I wanted. When you do an array, so I'm doing get elements by class name, which means it's going to take all the elements that have, in this case, this close button into it. Now there's only one, so it kind of doesn't matter. So it's going to store all of them in there, but that makes this an array, or it would make it an array. But by putting this on it afterwards, it says only the one that's indexed at 0, which means if there was multiple ones, like if there was another close button after this one, this would be stored in 0, the next one would be stored in 1, and 2, or 2, 3, so on and so forth. But this way, I'm only taking that one single button, because there's only one anyway, and sticking it in there. So that's definitely better. Okay, so now we got all our bars in there. We can start attaching things onto our objects here. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna do modal.btn. So to my modal button, I want to add an on click function or ability. So because it's an object, this is built into it. So I'm going to say when this object is clicked, I'm going to go ahead and say function, and we are going to apply the modal.style.display, and we're going to set it equal to block. Okay, boom. Okay, so all we're going to do is we're going to, when you click on it, it's going to run this function, and the function that it runs, what it's going to do is it's going to change the, oops, this should be modal btn, sorry. Oh no, I'm sorry, no, it should be modal. What it's going to do, when you click on it, it's going to turn basically the modal, which is this part here. It's going to turn the style of it, the display element, or display rule, to block. Because by default right now, it's on off. So it's going to turn it on. That's basically what that's doing. Alright, so let's do another one here. So we're going to do the close button, which is basically going to be doing the same thing, but opposite. Because when the one's on, the other one should be... Oh, actually, this is going to turn on too. On click. Why is that not highlighted? Something is, okay, there it goes. It's weird. This is going to run this function, which is basically going to do the opposite. So, this is going to turn off the style. So modal style dot display, and then that will be none. Okay. So what this is going to do is that when you click on the close button, it's going to turn the modal back off. So when you click on the modal button, the one that says click here, it's going to turn it on, and when you click on the close button, it's going to turn the display off. And then one last thing we're going to do is window dot on click. So basically, if you click on the window itself, this is just a built-in object. Kind of like the document, kind of like when I can write document.get element, so I can do window dot. If you click on the window, it's going to run this function, event. All right, it's going to send that event that you clicked, and it's going to say if the event, the thing you clicked on, target. So if the event, if the target of the event was, which in this case is a click, if that is equal to modal, so if you click on the modal, which in this case is the black and white, the gray area that gets put on. So if you click not on anything in essence, but in the window, it's going to go ahead and it's going to modal.style .display. It's going to do the same thing as what's up there, equals none. Boom, and let's go ahead and close that. Let me see, close that. Is that right? Yeah. So basically, the close button, we'll put this up here too. The close button and the window both will do the same thing. Both of those will turn the modal off, but this will turn the modal on. So if I hit Command S and we expand this, Command R, if I click on it, it's going to go, ooh, here's some stuff. And then I can click, if I click close, closes back on. But also, if I click anywhere out here, See, if I click in here, see, oh, doesn't do it. But if I click, it worked because I thought I clicked this. But if I click out here, which is the modal part, it'll also turn it off. So that's what this code was doing. It says window. If you click on the window, when the window's clicked on, I want you to add a function called not xvent. I'm surprised that worked. Called event. Maybe I accidentally hit x afterwards. It's going to send it whatever event, and then the event, if you target the modal, the gray area, go ahead and turn off that, which will turn off all of this business. And that's basically it. So pretty exciting stuff. Oops, that's not what I wanted to do. Okay, I thought I was clicking there. There we go. One more. Come on. There we go. So we save it, and again, if I, yay. But if I click close, oh, that's not what I wanted. All right, so there you go. That makes a modal. That can be useful for any number of things. If you want to make it look like they got a virus or something. Oh no, click this. So, yeah, there you go.